big heads. I put it on the big heads. That's pretty funny. I said I could do big heads. Oh, little heads. Whoa.
Right. Wait, was that the scene where the police officer realizes there is a shark in the water?
Oh!
that or Home Alone. Yeah, kind of like.
That's not rehearsed, folks. Not part of the script.
I'm really glad we could share that with the folks at home.
I think that they probably are blessed and they feel like transformation just occurred in their life.
Yeah, they're just going, did I miss anything? I
know. Welcome to another episode of Flight School, episode number 006 in our we're on 6th show already. It's crazy. That's so 6. Yeah. So we're on 6th episode of Flight School, where we want to help you stay grounded. So eventually, when you get those things in your life, you're going to be able to fly high. So my co-pilot and friend right next to me on my somewhere over here on this side, that side, my right, is Bill Dolan. Hey, Bill, how are you today?
Man, I am doing so well. I'm so blessed. The delight to be here and to be your co-pilot here. So at what point you're ready to okay, I'm going to chill. I'm ready to take the controls, and then I'm going to hand them back to
the wheel of button. So Bill has to play that a lot when I'm sleeping. It's rough. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, rough stuff. Well, we got a lot of good stuff to cover here today. And I will say for those people that have been following along, we have been walking down this incredible part of the training that actually Matt does as a part of his coaching. And it really talks about that transition from going to being unconscious about your incompetence to moving into a place of conscious competence, and then eventually so good it's unconscious competence. But one of the things I really love, and a lot of people have heard that principle before, but there's I think a new concept that you really elevate this, and that's teaching people how to go into the 5th gear. That's to move that unconscious competence and move into that place. And where we left off last time, we were really talking about the learning process and really kind of 8 cognitive conscious steps to move into that place. And so glad you have the graphic up. So for those of you that were with us before, you see there's the 4 levels from unconscious competence to conscious incompetence, like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this, to consciously competent. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm good at this, to the point where you're just on the groove, and then ultimately the 5th gear. So we talked about those 8 steps and just introduced them of really learning how to move into this space. And I'd really love it, Matt, if you could kind of pick up where we left off last week, because I know we talked a little bit sustained attention. I think it would be great to just do a review of what that is and see if we can cover at least a couple more in this episode today. Probably not doing too many. And here's why. I'm going to throw this out to you. For anybody listening, I think one of the great dangers of having a show like this is you get a bunch of information and then we don't apply it. I'm guilty of that. I'm one of those people that has, shelves of books, shelves of tapes, DVDs, videos, and then of course I attend a gajillion webinars and virtual events. And of course I watch the virtual events because we produce virtual events, and I'm always watching best practices. But I can tell you that there's a place where your sponge is so full, it's time to squeeze that out in the form of action. Right. And so as you go through this, what my hope, Matt, is that people get enough absorption today that they can think, how can I apply this next week? What does this look like? And, our show airs on a Friday, which means you have a weekend to absorb it and a Monday to launch it.
That's good.
So from that term, Matt, why don't you just pick up where we left off and take us into that next step?
Yeah, no doubt. And thanks for setting that up. Again, folks, if you want to kind of do some homework and go back, we keep the shows at 30 minutes or less most of the time. We went a little over last time, so it's not that hard to catch it. And if you're interested in actually getting this entire PDF document that I have, happy to send it to you. The email's right here on the screen, flightschoolonline@gmail.com. Be happy to send that to you. This week specifically, we are at this place of learning. We identified some things, identifying our unconscious competence. That's what this fifth gear does. You're engaging some things. There's this conscious competence of unconscious competence. So we started to identify what some of those things are in the last few shows. And then today we're in a stage of learning, which we started last week. That is learning what this unconscious competence is in our lives. And we might have a quick blink and say, well, man, I know my unconscious competence is X, Y, Z. You may find out by going through some of these tools I'm about to show you, there's a whole lot more to your unconscious competence than you thought. Some really incredible things that are amazing that should scale, and maybe some other things that you should throw away, right? So there's some great things that you can find out here. And we started last week at sustained attention. We just covered that one area. That's your basic ability to look at, listen, and think about your tasks or new tasks over a period of time. Like where is your sustained attention? Where are those things that you focus on, the things you actually do, your basic ability to look at those things, listen to those things, think about those things, or even take on new things in your life in a period of time. Not necessarily multitasking, but how do you handle the task at hand now, right? Doing your job, just may bust up the door. Hey, Bill, somebody just hit your car out in the parking lot. Okay, so now you have all these tasks you're doing in your office, and now you have another task that just got introduced to you, a little bit different, right? But sustained is that day-to-day thing that you're doing, okay? So now we're moving into number 2, which is response inhibition. And I think we talked about this last week. We started touching on it, didn't we? Or we did go through it.
A little bit. I think
the ability to shut out distractions. Yeah, so it's the way that you can shut out so some folks might be, I don't know, let's say you're in an airport and there's a lot going on. And a lot of folks, one of the things they do to do that is they pop on some headphones and they listen to some music, to a podcast. They watch a movie on their laptop, and all of a sudden you are still in the airport, but you're transported to a different place, right? It's a place where you can kind of shut out other distractions in your life and zero in on something that's more important to you and possibly to other people. So the airport analogy may not exactly fit every scenario, but you get the idea, all right? So response inhibition, the ability to shut out distractions that someone else might not be able to do. And we did do this a bit last week because, Bill, you had an amazing thing that several people talked about, which was instead of having all kind of tasks for you to do, which you have many to do in the work that you do with your studio and everybody else, right? That instead of being all these tasks that are overwhelming and things you might not be able to do, you started setting appointments instead. And those appointments for you were a place of honor that you would say, all right, for this hour, I'm supposed to do this appointment. I've got an appointment with Matt. So if I'm with Matt for an hour, Matt doesn't want me to sit here and read another book or do my LinkedIn profile and my Facebook stuff and talk to my mom or everything. No, I want to be present with him. I'm going to honor this time and do this, or do it editing for this video, or meet a client for XYZ, or whatever that thing might be. You set those appointments. Have I got that pretty close to what you were saying?
That's exactly what I was saying. Because really an appointment is a promise to yourself and others. A task sometimes is just a list of things you need to do. And when you elevate it to an appointment, it basically says, not only am I honoring a promise to myself or others, but it allows you to attach the physics necessary to accomplish it. Because I think, and I'll tell you, I think I mentioned that I grew up and I still enjoy Star Trek. And one of the great things about Star Trek is you get to beam places. And I secretly believe that I can beam places. And so I did not, whoa, there it went. Well, thanks to you, I can.
I've got a new toy. I'm sorry. It's pretty fun now. I'm going to be like, when can I do it? When can I do it?
It's like, right. Go, no.
That was awesome.
Yeah. But the idea is that, like, if you have do not attach the reality of what it takes to do it, guess what? Those tasks are going to pile up and you're not going to get things done. And then it really does set you up for distraction, because you introduce this idea of saying, yeah, maybe I'm working on something and someone calls and says, oh my gosh, someone just hit your car. Well, guess what? The idea of someone actually hitting your car, yeah, sometimes that happens. But guess what? If you've got a pile of tasks, it's like a traffic jam piling up in your mind all the time.
Yes.
Your car is being hit every day with every task that you don't deliberately provide attention to for the sake of completion and for the sake of honoring the promises you keep. And if you can't do the physics of it, you have to make a decision. Do I need to do this? Is this really a priority? And when do I need to do this? Or do I need to have somebody else do it? If you have a team, that's a blessing. So yeah, I think that's crazy important. And I try really hard to live by that.
Oh, it's so good. And thank you for sharing that, because it really meant a lot to me and a lot of other people, I'm sure. Of course, they said it, which is great. All right. So number 3, we're kind of moving from the sustained attention, response inhibition. And today we're going to start talking about number 3, speed of information processing. All right. Speed of information processing. Obviously, you can read this with me. It says, how fast can you process? Whoa. How fast can you process incoming information? All right. So how fast can it happen? So we all have information coming to us, and we can be mindless dribble and have nothing affect us whatsoever and just kind of bounce off you and nothing happens. Or there's times and places where that can be absorbed. Now, for some folks, the absorbing can be rather quick. Some people are really, really good at certain things. And somebody can say, Bill, we have da, ba, da, ba, da, ba, da, and you can say, all right, do X, Y, Z, and do it. And it was right. I mean, it's fantastic. Of course, that doesn't happen overnight either. Or it can be, hey, we've got this problem with a client, and they've been in the 90-day pile, and we've been trying to do this with them forever. They've been great. They've been with us for 15 years. And right now we just cannot get them to answer the phones, the emails, nothing in their 90 days. What should we do, Bill? Give me a minute to think about that. I've got some ideas. I've got something I'm working on right now. Give me a minute and I'll get back to you here before the end of the day. Right. So it may not be as immediate, but it may be intentional to where you can have an opportunity to digest, say the right thing, because maybe your first reaction might not be the right reaction. Somebody makes an ugly post to you, sends you an email, your first response say, you fathead idiot, I don't want to talk to you. You're stupid. Send. Stupid, wrong. You're like, oh, why did I do that? No.
Yeah. And I've tried to stop sending those now. I just want you to know.
That last one you sent to me really got to me, but I understood what you were doing. It's no problem. No problem. Well, there's nothing wrong with writing those responses, actually. Yeah. It's really good to write your first response on go. Don't send it. Don't send it at all. Put it away. Read it later. Have a friend, best friend, wife, husband, somebody else read it with you and say, no, you really should not send this. This is not good. Then you might say it yourself. Anyway, there's chances for us in our decision-making process here. We're covering these 8 cognitive skills. And I have these 8 cognitive skills as part of the fifth gear, so that you can understand how to dissect your unconscious competence. This is all stages of observing this part, right? We identifying some of this stuff so we can learn what this looks like in our own lives. So speed of information processing. What's that like for you, Bill, as a business owner, as you don't just own the company, you work in the company, so you're doing work there too, right? Yeah. So there's a lot. You have a owner's obligation. You have a worker's obligation, right? All those types of things that you do inside of that. You've got marketing, different people for different things. I mean, all that kind of stuff. So can you kind of give me some examples of speed of information processing for you?
Well, yeah, I think one of the things that's so important, and this is, I think what you started with is the idea of recognizing we have gifts. And part of that gifts of understanding, part of it has to do with purpose and vocation. And when you start getting context, it gives you a place to process information. If you don't have a framework of context, I mean, think about this. If you, for example, gave me a chest of drawers right now, said, look, I'm going to give you a gift of furniture. Let's say that's a metaphor for information. That gift is only as good as my ability to say, I have a use for that, I know how that's used, and I know where that goes. So there's contextual information that gives you the ability to receive it and process it. In the television world, and this is how I train a lot of my people, because look, I come from broadcasting where we have to make split-second decisions. And the old saying in the broadcast booth is mistakes leave here at the speed of light.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
it means that you have to make decisions very quickly. And I use the example of thinking about someone throwing you a ball. And the question is, if someone throws you a ball, how are you going to catch it? So you need to be prepared with a mitt. And if you need to process that, you need to have a free hand to be able to take that and get it to the next place. So thinking about a mindset of context to receive and process is an important thing. Sometimes that is process in your own business to receive and process information, especially the larger the project, the more complex it is, the more you need those systems in place in your mindset and in your business to receive, process, and take action. Receive, process, take action. So we are really aware of that, as well as we're aware that, I mean, look at the place we're in right now. 2020 has turned a lot of things upside down. And a lot of the things that we expect to happen, which is that context, are not happening.
Yeah.
And things that we would think would be context, things are happening that we would never expect to happen. And it is making it harder for people to process, not only in their business, but in their life, and process this new information. So to be able to recognize this is it's not just something you're born with, like, oh, I'm a fast processor, or man, I banged out 3 cups of espresso today, so look at me, Mr. Matt Wiggs. It doesn't work that way. A little caffeine can help, but more importantly, the process and being very conscious about creating context to receive and process information. And that's central to what we have. I mean, one other tidbit there, we live in a technologically changing world. So if your comfort zone is based upon knowing everything, you are like messed up, because you're not going to know everything.
Right.
But if you know how to process new information, you can do almost anything.
So let me ask this question then, Bill, in your business, because it is a fast-paced business. You have a lot going on, lots of deadlines, and things of that nature, and different people have different responsibilities. So how does that work? How fast can you process incoming information? Number 3, speed of information processing. All right, because that's you personally, and of course we want to come back to ourselves individually. But as a business, how does that? What processes do you have in place? Maybe I'm putting you on the spot here, of course, too. But what processes, and I think you probably do you have in place for processing incoming information? And in your case, in a studio and production facility, I'm sure that's the kind of thing that's going to happen on a regular basis. So how do you have that set up for it to function properly and work?
Well, the first thing for us is we have to take into account how information is going to come in, because we have digital information in the form of images and videos and graphics. That is one way that information comes in. We also know that we're going to communicate with people via Zoom. We know we're going to communicate via email. We know we're going to communicate via text. And now through social media platforms, we're going to communicate. So we're very deliberate about where that information comes in, and we assign for every project a project manager. So, and could I be a great project manager? Yes. You know, I've been in the business for 30 years. I'm actually a master of my craft as a director. But for me to be the director, it means that I need to assign that person to receive with the MIT and process. And those are our project managers. And so we take every channel of information and we communicate to our clients, this is the way we're going to process this. And we don't do it because, oh, this is how it has to be because we have this picky way. We do it because we recognize that processing information is going to be a gift to you. It's going to honor a process, it's going to deliver a better product, a more efficient product, a more competent product, and one that we don't let things fall through the cracks. Because in live television, like surgery, the last thing you want to hear is oops. And so we are trying to do everything we can to avoid the oops by being deliberate about those processes. So if you are a client, you get an email, we do a launch meeting with you. And the launch meeting would start out with, Matt, great to work with you, excited to work with you. Let me tell you how our protocols work to make sure this goes efficiently. And we talk about files. We talk about emails, and we talk about email threads and subject lines, all those things to make sure we're processing well and we're getting back to our client exactly what they need.
Which in the end of the project turns out to be, as you said, a much better project. It's a project of excellence versus, having to be somebody who's desire to say, I've got to have it done right. Perfectionism, right? That's not going to work for anybody. And because you've been through the ropes, you have a system established, and although somebody might say, I really want to have this done by Tuesday. It's Friday, right? I want to have this done by Tuesday. You're like, well, we could do it by Tuesday. We could do it and it'll be okay. But if you want okay, that's, it's up to you. But we want incredible. And if you wait till next Friday, we'll have incredible. And we know it's going to go to this department, to this department, to this department, get it done, right? So it's that speed of information processing. And sometimes, I'll use the example here of your business. Sometimes there are places and times where you need to have things established and set in place so that things work the way they're supposed to, instead of chaos with everybody trying to run around in circles, trying to figure out where's the folder that has this guy's negatives in it, and where's the package, and right, things that they did back in the day, back before we had all the digital stuff, right? So
in there, yeah.
Let's going for those big packets all the time, giant packets of people stuff. Anyway, so those things, they have to work in the right way. So personally, we do the same thing in our lives, whether it's our personal lives, our hobbies, our relationships, our likes, our dislikes, what everything that makes you, not your job, not your things, right? But just you, this unconscious competence part we're talking about. You have a chance to go through and reflect on some of these tools that we're talking about and these 8 cognitive skills to engage this conscious competence of your unconscious competence and break those things down. So what does, for you today that are watching, we're coming up on almost 23 minutes here on the show. For those of you that are watching, what does speed of information processing look like in your life? And like Bill mentioned, this is Friday. So, you've got Saturday and Sunday coming right in front of you. You can have a great opportunity to do this. This is your CTA, your call to action for the weekend, right? If you're watching this, you like the show, it's fantastic, but try something, right? Okay, so go back and check out 1 and 2, sustained attention, response inhibitions. All right, number 3, speed of information processing. What does that look like for you? Are you intentional? Are you fly by the seat of your pants? Are you, I've got this down, I know what I'm doing, no problem, I can do this in my sleep? Are you, I have to have this lined up with this to line up with this to make sure that this happens so I can get this? What's that look like for you? Is it working well? Does it suck? So what does that look like for you? So what, that's part of the call to action. Bill, what would you think would be another opportunity for people to dig into looking at this area of their life in the sense of their unconscious competence?
Say that one more time. Just as you're saying that, a giant thing popped across my screen. So
it said, all right.
If you said that, it's like my screen went. So say that again, man.
A call to action for folks in your thought process for individual. This is individual speaking, not necessarily for their business, but personally, individually. What would you challenge somebody to do this weekend as a call to action, digging into number 3 here specifically with speed of information processing?
Well, I think it's what we talked about a little bit is think about this idea of what are the vehicles through which information does come to you. Now, if you really want to get crazy and start doing the micro adjustments, consider all 5 of your senses. I receive information through that, which gets zapped right into my brain, and for which I have to process it. But I think more realistically, think about the way you receive information now. Now, in our case, I talked about our business at Spirit Media, and a lot of it's electronic. Well, sometimes we actually get, someone will call us, and we do that. Gosh, it's been a long time since we've done a lot of face-to-face meetings. But even in the face-to-face meetings, we're very deliberate about taking notes and creating a system where we document what was said. So I think it would be worth considering all the streams through which you get information and think about how you process that and how you will store that, not only for absorption, but for recollection and for action. because there's really three things there. It's like, again, receive, catch the mitt, pass off. How do you receive it? How do you store it? How do you act on it or delegate it? Really important to do that. And I would say give yourself one more step for the weekend, and that is absorb the reality that one of the things that you're going to have to receive is change. It may come in multiple ways, and your ability to adapt and change, which eases more into number 4, but that's an important part of how well you process information. Because if you give yourself margin for change, for adjustment, for growth, maybe for fine tuning, there's an old term, constant, never ending growth. If you have constant, never ending growth, it means you have margin for it. And that becomes a part of your process. If you don't have that, it will hinder your ability to process information. And I'll give you a quick example. If you've ever gone in your car and you have to drive somewhere you've never been before, and you're looking at the map or you're listening to whatever device you use, it seems like it takes a long time. And the reason it takes a long time is because you're questioning every intersection.
Yeah.
And eventually you get there. And it's funny, coming home usually goes faster. And going there the second time even seems even more faster. And part of it's not necessarily that it took you longer, but you had to be able to consider that the first time you're going to have multiple intellectual intersections that you need to process. And if you don't give yourself margin for the growth that's required to encounter intellectual intersections, you're going to feel stressed. You're going to feel trapped. You're going to feel like, I can't do this. Well, the truth is, you can. You just need to make room for it. And you can do crazy things more than you can imagine if you just give yourself room for that.
So very true. Oh, I've got a lot I just wanted to say right now. We don't have enough time. We got to move on because we got to end the show today, which is going to be so great for next week. And obviously you set that up that, we're going to really dig into what change is and some of those cognitive skills in your life and what does change look like for you? How do you handle change, right? Some folks love it. Some folks don't. Think about some church folks might recognize this. If you got some old church that's been sitting around for 100 years and the new young pastor comes in, and he says, you know what? Let's take out all the pews and I'm putting in some chairs. Wait just a second. You just may have launched World War III, but they're just pews. Oh, yeah. What about that change? That's pretty cool. So sometimes change is a difficult thing. We'll dig into that next week. And don't forget, your homework for this weekend, as we're hanging out here in the hangar at Flight School, is to really spend some time with that speed of information processing. Go back and re-listen to what our challenges were today if you'd like. But I think you pretty much got it. You've been great students today listening. I appreciate all you guys. They're so good, aren't they, Bill? So I'm super excited. Super excited. Next episode, number 7, coming up next week. We'll begin about that change. So, Bill, thanks a lot for being here again today. It has been so fun for you and I to try to get back together to make this happen. We have our schedules. We got our stuff laid out, and something changes. Change. We adapted. Bill's adapted. I've adapted, and we're here. And it's Friday, and we have an opportunity to be with you all here today and have a good time. So thank you, Bill, and thank you again, everybody, for being here today. Have a fantastic weekend. Are you ready, Bill?
I'm ready. Hit the music. Let's dance on it.
Each week, Bill and I bring you episodes to help you get and stay grounded in your business and your life with lessons that help you fly higher heights and know exactly what your flight plan is. Join us each week on Fridays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern and 7:30 a.m. Pacific Time. Welcome to Flight School.